exciting thing for me as a scientist working in football with regards to the G5 unit is it possesses additional characteristics that have been built in that will recognise goalkeeper-specific actions. So dives, repeated dives, short sprints followed by dives.
Optimize G5 uses a goalkeeper-specific algorithm based on our IMA platform to measure accelerations, decelerations, changes of direction, jumps, both height and frequency, metabolic power, repeat high-intensity efforts, and return to feet after the goalkeeper dives.
As it stands at the moment, the only device that gives you those algorithms is obviously the Catapult G5 unit.
Goalkeepers have a unique training regime where they can do up to 8 times more work in training compared to games, whereas field-based players generally match their training demands to the game demands.
So now that we can actually track dives and goalkeeper-specific sprints and the like, it puts a meaning to the information that we get. So it's not just general information that we're trying to apply to them, it's something that's been produced for goalkeepers as goalkeepers.
Up until this point, there hasn't been a way to accurately measure a goalkeeper's training load, and arguably they're the most important player out on the pitch.
Well, I've been working with Catapult now for 8 years. We've been quite intrinsically involved in the development of a number of the features that are specific to the Catapult software, and quite closely involved certainly in the development of this G5 unit. So it's exciting times now for Catapult.
It's an all-encompassing performance monitoring tool that captures micro movements that can't be seen by the human eye. This isn't off-the-shelf technology, this is individually sourced electronics using intelligent algorithms to capture data and provide information that's never been obtainable before.
I'm Matt Taberner, Head of Sports Science at Everton Football Club. Players will wear the units every day, whether it be from whether they're training with the team or from a rehab perspective. It might be we'll gather the training information in terms on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and then how that accumulates then over 2 weeks, 3 weeks and 4 week training loads, whether that be from an absolute point of view and a relative point of view from training, so we can get information in terms of what that player's doing over a longer picture. From pre-season, the game values, we look at that in terms of how each player performs. So we might have one player, for example Seamus Coleman, who produces a large amount of sprint and high intensity distance, whereas on the other side we've got Leighton Baines, which might be a bit more explosive distance inclined. So it's almost weighing up the balance and looking at that in relative terms rather than just the absolute value. So you could have 200 metres of high speed running for one player, 200 metres of high speed running for another player, but it means a completely different thing. When we're exposed to like high amounts of explosive distance, like higher acceleration and deceleration values in a split change second, we're obviously exposing them to high amounts of eccentric soreness. So if we're exposing them to too much eccentric soreness going into, say, a match day -2 going into game day, are we exposing them to an elevated risk of injury? So it's obviously exposing them to the right amount of metrics on the appropriate day, whereas so it's obviously then adjusting the volume levels of that metric. So ultimately it's not saying you can't do any explosive distance or any high speed running 2 games before a game, but it's getting the volume of that certain metric right on the appropriate day leading into match day. So we look at sort of the relationship sort of stress load and decelerations sort of as an eccentric tolerance strength measure. So if someone's like produced a high amount of decelerations but their level of DSL remains constant to that, then they're sort of tolerating that level of deceleration well. But if their stress load jumps up higher than sort of the decelerations, is that telling us there's something going on? Is there a risk of injury, which possibly that could account for? One of the big things in terms of how we've been to utilise the Viper this year and the past couple of years is obviously using it as a return to play strategy and tool. We have a couple of ways of looking at this in terms of what players performed before they got injured, what were sort of their distances, what were their exposure to accels and decels, what was their heart rate response to sessions, and can we try and expose players to this gradually as they come back towards training. Say it was a 6-week injury, there's a gradual exposure to that if they're getting towards that final 2-week stage, or obviously exposing them to higher volumes of what they're normally exposed to, also trying to get them gradually towards a higher percentage of their maximal speed that they'll be reaching during from pre-season data that we already have. And then it's also looking at not just absolute terms but in relative terms into how that player responds in a game. some of the research that recently been published from the Prozone data tell us that the game is getting more intense in nature. So that would tell us that total distances are coming down and the more high intensity actions such as the sprint distance and the high speed running are going up in games. So obviously we need to look at both the different aspects of the game in terms of what's appropriate on different game bases. If you look at it from a game perspective, if we're exposing players to lots of small sided games, we're exposing them to lots of explosive distance and sheer number of efforts within different acceleration, deceleration velocity bands, whereas if you open up the pitch and go to bigger numbers where it's more game based situations, then players are going to be exposed to more high speed running for a wide player or more explosive distance for a centre half, and also the sheer magnitude of that acceleration and decelerations, because if there's more open area to develop speed and power, then that athlete's going to have to brake quickly. So obviously it's exposing them to the right amount of workload of the right sort of training on the appropriate gauge going into games. So if it's a match day -4, then it will be more an intense session, where it was a -2, it's a gradual build up into a low intensity -1, giving that optimal performance to produce power in the games and obviously with a reduced risk of injury.
Every runner is different. Every heart is unique. Imagine having a personal trainer that listens to your heart and pushes you to your limit. Meet MyCoach Pacer. Here's how it works. First, set your training goals online at mycoach.com. Then, get started.
Begin workout.
MyCoach tracks your heart rate while you run, measures your pace and distance, and then gives you real-time audio feedback.
Maintain blue zone.
Using easy-to-understand color zones, MyCoach tells you when to speed up or slow down.
Speed up to green zone.
So whether you're building endurance or looking to qualify for Boston, MyCoach knows what you need to be a better runner, a smarter runner.
Workout complete.
MyCoach works great all by itself, but if you want to run with music, MyCoach is compatible with every MP3 player on the planet, providing real-time audio feedback even when you're listening to your favorite songs. MyCoach Pacer, your personal trainer that listens. Look better, feel better, be a better runner.
Great job.
Have you ever wished to have precise data of your performance after a football game? Have you ever thought of optimizing your tactical analysis thanks to accurate statistics? Well, FieldWiz is the first autonomous performance and strategy measuring system for football players. It is simply worn on a player's back, collecting measurements that are synchronized at the end of the game with any mobile device via Bluetooth. The player gets data of his covered zones, his route, the distance run and the number of sprints, as well as speed statistics and a replay function to analyze any phase of play. Created in Switzerland, the product weighs only 45 grams. It is based on 10 Hz GPS technology and an accelerometer of great precision, with a battery autonomy of more than 10 hours.
After several generations of functional prototypes, we've fully optimized the FieldWiz hardware for reduced size, complexity, and power consumption. We gathered numerous feedbacks from team staff and players, which helped us to give the best value to the collected data.
Until now, only the wealthiest football teams could afford measuring devices, which required dedicated staff to operate them. FieldWiz makes it affordable with a simple and autonomous kit. The system is delivered for either individual players or as a ready-to-use package for a whole team, which makes it a highly valuable tool for any coach or player to set goals and analyze progress.
We love sports and technology. We love football. We love to play and to share. We want everybody to be able to access statistics, just like in top international teams. We want to empower coaches and players to optimize the game using our solution. Thanks to you, we can make it happen. Join us to bring your football experience to the next level.
FieldWiz. Optimize your game.